Hello, everyone. My name is Christina Liu. I am a mental fitness coach. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's video where I share with you tips and tools on how to build more mental fitness. In the last 3 weeks, I talked about some concepts regarding money and investing that I have found really useful for me over the years. Today, I'll share the final and the fourth concept, which is the 5 financial goals, which I learned from Tony Robbins in his book, Money Master the Game. Now, in these videos, I am simply sharing with you the concepts and philosophies I have learned over the years that have shaped my investment philosophy. However, I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not giving you financial advice here. So I highly encourage you to do your own research, do your own reading. I have linked some books that I have read over the years. I've also shared some financial advisory systems that I use to help me to form my own investment opinion and philosophy. All right, now with that, I'm going to share my screen so that you can see what is this concept of the 5 financial goals. Again, this is from the book Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. And here in this book, he also doesn't claim to be an investment expert because he's more of a personal development person. However, he wrote this book based on the interviews with 40 of the biggest investment experts in the world. And that's what he came up with, a lot of these philosophies and concepts. So I highly encourage you to read this book if you haven't read it, because I think it's quite a comprehensive one that really can teach you a lot of good information about investing and finance. And so the 5 financial goals, what Tony Robbins says here is these are the goals you can set up for yourself in terms of at what kind of a lifestyle do you want to live. And this also is talking about in terms of when you get to a point of retirement, of what kind of lifestyle do you want to live when you come to the point where you no longer want to work. And so the first level, let's start from the bottom, is called financial security. And this is, we talked about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The way I look at it is what do you need in order to meet all your basic needs? So the bottom 2 levels, which are, food, water, shelter, safety, and security. So what it includes here is your rent and mortgage, food, utilities, transportation, insurance. Now, then the next level is financial vitality. And what that is basically a step up from financial security. So now that you've got all your basic needs taken care of, now you can add a little bit of small indulgences, such as clothing or entertainment or dining out. And here you're including about half of what you're currently spending. And the next level is financial independence. And what this is, Tony Robbins says, this is you're paying for your current lifestyle. Now, what if, let's say you may ask, what if I'm currently living at the level of financial security? Well, if that's the case, then think about, for financial vitality, what are some of the small indulgences that you would love to be able to do if you had a little bit more money? So then for financial vitality, you're basically spending half of that. And then for financial independence, you're spending all of that. And when we talk about small indulgences, use your judgment. What are the things that, in my view, is that bring you joy, that you would like to do? If we use the concept of sage and saboteur, is, what are the things that your sage believes, that he or she wants to do, that's really coming from the heart, that's coming from a true place. And then the next level is financial freedom. Now, what that is financial independence, which is basically all the things that you really want to do, plus a few more luxury items. So here is in financial freedom is talking about 3 luxury items, and it could be, a second home, or maybe another car, or maybe more travel. So whatever it is that you deem as perhaps a luxury that you're not currently spending, or that you believe, even if I make more money, I probably wouldn't do those luxury items, or things that you would consider a little bit more luxury. That's not really meeting your basic needs. And then the absolute financial freedom is now you're paying for all your big wants in life. So it's basically anything that you really want to spend money on, whether it's multiple cars, multiple homes, or whatever else, or jewelry, or whatever else that you believe are the things that really you want to spend money on. So when you're at absolute financial freedom, basically what it means is you're not concerned about money anymore. You're buying anything that you really want to buy. All right. So these are the financial goals. And I here show some numbers, just as illustration. But I think what would be better is if I go to this financial calculator to show you how I came up with these numbers. And these numbers are absolutely, for illustration purposes only. And this financial calculator, I actually just found it online. So nowadays, when you Google things, you can find a lot of great information. And in Money Master the Game, Tony Robbins talks about a website that you can go to calculate these numbers. So you can also do a Google of that and find that. But so I've used it once, but what I use more often is this Excel financial calculator, because I'm much more of an Excel person, and I can put multiple tabs into the same sheet. So that's what's worked for me. So let me show you that financial calculator. In terms of how you come up with these numbers at each of these financial goals. So this is, like I said, this is something that I found online, and I've really found it to be quite good. It's really simple, and I think it really does the job in terms of helping you to come up with these numbers. And so, and maybe just before we get into the details, why do we want to know these numbers? I believe it's because the more information we have, the more we can make, the better decisions we can make, right? So if you don't know these concepts or how much money you need at each of these levels, you don't really have a target. You don't know where you're shooting at. Whereas once you know this concept and then these numbers, then you now have an idea. Oh, well, if I want to retire at the financial security level, this is how much money I need. If I want to retire at the financial independence level, this is how much money I need, right? So it just gives you more information. It puts you more in control. And when you can do this, it quiets down the saboteurs that have these like survival fears. Right. So for financial security, so here are some of the categories I mentioned, rent or mortgage payment, food, electricity, water, phone, transportation, insurance. So these are really items that would meet your basic needs. And here I'm just putting in some random numbers. It's kind of like numbers that I think that could be enough for me in where I live. But when you look at these numbers, you may say if you're living in a different part of the world where, cost of living is much lower, you're say, oh, these are very high. Could be. Or, if you live in a much higher cost of living places, like I lived in Singapore, like these numbers definitely wouldn't be enough. Or if you live in New York City or Hong Kong or London. So adjust these numbers based on your current circumstances. Again, I'm showing these just for illustration purposes. All right. So when you add it up on a monthly basis, you get to the monthly need or a monthly expense that you need for financial security. And then you put it into kind of a yearly category. And here there's a note that says the US average basic annual expense is 34,000. So here, I'm coming in a little bit lower, but of course, like I said, you make your you put in your own numbers. And then what you do here in this, so anything that's in yellow, you have to input yourself, and anything that is either green or white is calculated. So here, what this green number or nest egg means is, so you multiply this yearly expense that you need by the number of years that you, until years after your retirement. So again, here, this number, you can adjust it. So here I'm putting in 30, assuming, let's say people here in the US, at least the official retirement age is 67 and a half. Let's say you live for another 30 years, you're at 97 and a half, I think that's pretty good, right? But if you believe, hey, I want to retire at the age of 50 and I think I'm going to live for, and it's till I'm 100, then you can change this number. So you can put it, let's say, to 50. Then obviously, then your nest egg here, or how much money you need to retire at this age, at this level, would have to increase. But let me just put it back to 30, because I think that's a pretty reasonable number for a lot of people. And then if we move down to this financial vitality, so as I mentioned when I was showing the slides, is basically half of your kind of small indulgences. So half of your current monthly clothing cost, a monthly dining entertainment cost, and your current small indulgences, like gym membership, maybe salon visits or massages, or anything that you kind of want to spend a little bit of money on. It's not like huge luxury, but small indulgences. So put those numbers in. So here I'm just, again, putting in some random numbers. And let's say you have an additional $500 of needs. So now at financial vitality, your monthly need is $2,900 and your yearly need is $34,000. So this is much more in line with that average US, yearly expense. So perhaps is taking into account some of these small indulgences. And now when you do that, you multiply again this by the 30 years, you'll need about $1 million if you want to retire at this level. Now, moving down the list for financial independence, here we're saying it's your total monthly expense to maintain your current lifestyle. Or this is how Tony Robbins defines it. Or, it could very well be that you're currently not living at this level, right? Maybe you are saving or you're currently in, worse situation than you would not normally be in. So maybe currently you're living at financial security or financial vitality. So then for this financial independence, so basically multiply all your additional indulgences in the financial vitality category by 2. So that means it's all your indulgences, and then you add it to the financial security. So this is where you come up with your financial independence number. So let's say here it's 4,000 a month, and then yearly is 48,000. You multiply it again by the 30, you come up with about 1.4 million is what you need to retire at this level if you want to live for another 30 years after your retirement. Now, the financial freedom here, we're adding some luxury items, like items 1, 2, and 3. It could be, like I said, second home, maybe college fund for your children and grandchildren. And in my case, it's travel. And maybe it's some education, that you do for yourself. So whatever that is, put that in. And here I'm just, again, putting some random numbers, but I think that could be realistic, 1,000 in each. And so now you need 7,000 a month to live at this level, and 84,000 a year at this level. And if you want to retire at this level and live for 30 years, that's about 2.5 million. Then now we move to the last level, which is absolute financial freedom. Here you're adding an additional 3 luxury items. Or here, if you say, hey, I have many more luxury items that I want to add, so feel free to add more of them and put in the number, the dollar amount. So here you're living at 10,000 a month, 120,000 a year. So if you want to live at this level and live for 30 years after retirement, it requires about 3.6 million. All right. So hopefully this kind of a calculator, as you can see, it's pretty simple to put these numbers in. So I highly encourage you to do this for yourself so that you can come up with some numbers for yourself. Again, this is what I have learned and what I do. I'm not saying you have to do this, but this is just kind of what I have done. And I believe that it can give you some more choices with some more information. Now, another thing that I do, I'm just here sharing with you what I do, is I do a simulation. And this is actually a spreadsheet. So as you can tell, I'm quite an Excel person. So this I came up with probably, gosh, this is like 5, 6, maybe even 7 years ago when I was first starting to contemplate, perhaps taking some time off, or do some more extensive traveling, or changing career. And before I did this sheet, I actually didn't think it was possible. I thought I had to be like everyone else, work until, when I'm 67 and a half, and only then will I have enough money to retire. And this one day when I was sitting at work, it was one of those slow days and I wasn't super motivated. And I started just thinking, hey, maybe I could retire earlier. And so then I said, well, I won't know until I put some numbers down on paper. So this is the exercise I did. So I said, I started investing at the age of 22 when I graduated college. So I basically put in the numbers of assets that I had in these years, and it went up to, I continue to put it in. So basically, so I have a view of how much I have been having. And then, but the most important is actually to do a projection going forward. And so how I did that was I basically did a projection of, so here, let me move some of this around. This is then CAGR, so we talked about, so compounded annual return rate. And then you have, I put in some yearly contribution, here again, just some phantom numbers. And anything that is in orange, you can change yourself. And then I'm also putting in some yearly spend here. I'm linking it to the previous page. And this is the number for, let's see, this is the number for financial independence, which is what you're spending now. And so when I did that, and then here in this area, I also put, what are all the investments that I have for each quarter. So you can track it by quarter. And so let's say, again, making up some numbers again. So you can, let's say you have about 13,000 in your total investment. And so this is what you would put for, so this is 2021, you put that in, this is all calculated. So anything that is not in orange, it's auto calculated. And so you can then see, if you have an annual return rate of 8% and then you're contributing 10,000 a year, you can see how your money would grow. And so here I did it until 67. So I'll have about a million by then, let's say, using these numbers. And then by the age of 68, I'm changing the formula. So basically, I'm still having this compound rate. However, now I'm not contributing anymore, but I'm spending. So this is simulating when you retire, right? So if I retire at this level, spending 48,000, this is how much I would have from 68 and onwards. And as you can see, what's happening here, even though you're not contributing any money, but your money is still growing. Isn't this quite amazing? Remember what we talked about this is the second video of this money and investing series, is the compounding of money. The power of that compounding. Einstein calls it the eighth wonder of the world. This is why it is so amazing, because now you have retired. You are no longer contributing to your funds, but it's not going down, but actually going up. And of course, this is a function of a lot of these numbers, right? So if you change the return rate to something lower, let's say you go down to 5%, now you can see, yes, your money does go down. I'm putting in an 8% because I think this is really realistic. If you put it, we talked about in the market and like the stock market, even if it's some kind of an index fund, you will probably get this kind of a return. But of course, here I'm not giving you financial advice, but I'm just showing you some possible scenarios. And of course, if you spend more yearly, so this is, let's say in the previous one, we're linking it to you're spending it at the financial independence level. But let's say you want to link it to the this is absolute financial freedom level. So you're spending 120,000 a year. Let's see what happens here. Ooh, now you definitely are going to go negative, from what about, well, even in this case, it goes down. But look, from the age you retire, you can still live for, this is until, you're 80. So another 12 years where you won't completely run out of money. But of course, if you believe you're going to live more than 80, and I hope you do, right? Then you might be thinking about, okay, do I need to invest in something that gives me higher return? That's one way. Or do I spend a little bit less? Or, do I want to retire a little bit later? So, the reason I'm showing you this is that I found this to be so important and valuable for myself, because the only reason I decided eventually to take some time off, well, to leave my corporate career. I didn't really take time off, but to start a new career, right? To travel the world for that year and start a new business, which is my coaching business. The only reason I was able to do that is because I had these numbers, and I still use this to track all my finances and my investments. Because once I was able to put some numbers down and I was simulating, like an 8% return and yearly contribution of, 10,000. I think I probably put in a little bit more because I was doing a little bit more, and I was simulating, and I said, oh, wow, I'm actually going to have a lot more money than I thought. And so one option or possibility it gave me is perhaps I don't need to work until I'm 67 and a half. Maybe I can retire much earlier. And then the other option, I said, well, is perhaps to not have to contribute so much to my investments for a few years while I'm figuring out this new career, this new passion that I want to pursue. And maybe the other passion is to travel. And so that's what this kind of a spreadsheet or this kind of tracking gives you the option to do. It basically puts everything on paper. It gives you all the information. So when we talk about the saboteur and the sage, this is really, I believe, quite a sage thing to do, because you're not looking at the situation as worse than it is or better than it is. You're looking at the situation the way it is. And you're making decisions and you're taking actions based on real information. Whereas, a saboteur thought, it might be, oh, well, this is too hard. I don't know how to do this. So I'm just not going to do it at all. I'm not going to deal with it. So this is kind of like an avoider saboteur kind of a reaction. Maybe another reaction would be if you had the victim saboteur is, oh, poor me. I never knew this information earlier. Why does this always happen to me? How come I never, learn information earlier to help myself, help my family? And if you think about these thoughts, they're not really helpful, right? um and so and maybe the judge is saying, oh, judging yourself, beating yourself up, and so on and so forth. So the reason I'm showing you this is I believe this is a way to help you to tap into your sage. And for me, even though I did this spreadsheet, because I'm quite a meticulous person, this is the kind of thing I do, but I'm really glad I did it. But I gave myself a number. I said, well, if I hit that number, I'm gonna, leave my corporate job and start pursuing something I'm more passionate about. But I hit that number and I still couldn't make that decision. So basically, I still had a lot of saboteurs, a lot of fears that were holding me back. And all of them come from the survival part of the brain, and probably also some hypervigilance saboteur that I had, which is thinking of worst case scenario. So even though I had these numbers on paper, I still was thinking, oh, what if, the market doesn't give me that kind of return? What if, I take these few years off and I never can find a job then, and I definitely don't have enough money to retire yet, and I'm never going to make this money back, et cetera, et cetera. And the only reason I was able to overcome a lot of these fears and these kind of making up worst case scenario is through coaching. I got coached, so it allowed me to confront all my fears, all these saboteurs, and then to tap into my sage to say, hey, what is this? What does my sage really want to do? What does my heart really desire? And what am I capable of? Looking at situation the way it is, not worse than it is or better than it is. So when I look at situation in that way and I manage to calm down these saboteurs, that's how I was able to make the decision to leave my corporate job take some time off to go travel, and while building up my coaching practice. And at the same time, I was also doing a doctorate's dissertation. So, uh, yeah, so let me come back here. And as I mentioned, I'm not giving you financial advice here. I'm simply sharing with you things that I have learned over the years that have really served me. And if you believe that they could serve you as well, please do check out some of these books that I'm talking about, or send me a comment. Let me know what other information that you would like to hear. And then if you are interested in this financial calculator, send a comment down below, and I'll give it to you. And as I mentioned, the first tab that I showed you is actually not even mine. I found it somewhere online. So a lot of these things you can definitely get online. There's so much information out there, um, everywhere. So it's only a matter of you going and searching out for them, and then based on the information that you learn, form your own opinion, your own philosophy, and then take an action. Right? That's the most important, is do all your research, but then finally take an action that is aligned with who you are, your sage. And then when these saboteurs do come as you are executing these actions, find a way to calm them down. So I have talked about in many of my previous videos about, doing PQ reps, which is, kind of rubbing your hands or taking deep breaths so that you calm that survival part of the brain down, so that you're able to get more into your sage and take those sage-like actions that will serve you, right? Because planning your finances is one of the biggest things you can do to serve yourself. When you have this part taken care of, you really are able to do many more. Whereas when you're still worried about your finances, then you might be taking jobs that you're not really, that you don't really love, or you might be feeling like stuck in a particular situation that doesn't serve you. So hopefully these videos gave you some insights and some information to trigger some thoughts in you, and some desire to read more and take some action. All right. Thank you so much for watching. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification so that you don't miss a video in the future. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again next week. Bye. Take care.